And is that kind of life with Gary? It's just kind of, I don't want to say chaos, but
It's chaos.
okay.
It's structured chaos because like every day is planned out. Things change. You know, might get sick or bigger meeting comes up or a podcast gets canceled or something. But um, yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't realize at the time that as much as I was a creative videographer and editor, I still had to be very good at keeping check on Gary's schedule, his belongings, where the car is going to be that's picking him up after this meeting. And so, as much as you're shooting, you're kind of like, looking at the calendar going like, oh wow, like we got to figure out like where this car is in the hotel. And so it's a very unique role, but it taught me a lot of like just, I don't know, working with, the most fast-paced, high energy entrepreneur in the world. So it's very easy to like work now with like other entrepreneurs because like I did it at the highest level.
I've heard a rumor that Gary's day is broken up into 5 minute chunks. Is that true?
1,000%.
Wow.
Obviously there's probably some bigger meetings when it might be a consulting sesh, but yeah, they're 5 minute chunks. And even if it's like, I've asked him personally for like 10, 15 minutes, usually gets it all done by like the fourth minute, and then he's like, "Could I just get some time back?" And I'm like, "All good, G." And then boom, he's out. And I've been in the car with him like plenty of time where it's just like he's on a call, then he's off, scrolls Twitter for maybe a second. If there's like a gap between like getting the next meeting going, and then he's on. And yeah, and like I lived that for 5 years, jumped away from it, and then just did another project with him where I was shooting the Daily V again only 2 months ago, and it was like nothing changed. He's like, hello, and then back into the madness that was like bunch of meetings, get here, where's the car, this, and it's just like that's why this guy's winning. It's just he hasn't stopped. It's all the same. It's higher level. So it's been interesting to watch as like a creative because it's expanded me as like a businessman and entrepreneur.
Could I just double tap on that point and
Yeah,
just kind of zoom out and for being that close to such a high level kind of operator, what
yeah,
did you learn from that about, yeah, kind of how things work at that level?
yeah. I mean, so much. So it's like I was so obsessed with storytelling, the art form of video shooting and editing, but then I started learning like efficiency and time. Back to the meeting thing, I'm like in all these meetings where Gary's like trying to make VaynerMedia run better, and he's kind of demonizing a little bit on Slack. He's saying like an email could have been a meeting, and so I'm like picking up on these things where I'm like, oh yeah, like we can be way more efficient with our time. And even now, like running my business, like yeah, like I see it. I'm like, all right, cool. Like I don't need to spend all this time with maybe an employee or future client. I'm like, I can get it done way faster. So I think a little bit more like that. And then the more obvious thing is like, I don't know how he words it exactly, but it's like running yourself out of business. And so what's like working today is probably not going to work tomorrow. And so we tested a lot of new platforms. A lot of them like aren't even around now. Um, and so like I remember when TikTok came out, it was like just bubbling up way before people knew about it in like 2020. That was like the boom of it during COVID. But a year before that, Gary was like, "Come on, team," and we're like, "Okay," but like we're all really busy. And then like a month later, like kind of only started posting a few videos. He's like, "Yo, team," he's like, "If we don't figure this out, I'm restructuring the whole thing," which is a nice way of saying like you guys are gonna get fired. And then we like started going, and then that's what that's why Gary had such big momentum on that platform. Caleb was leading it. I'm sure he's talked about it on this show. And in that first year, it went from like you know 200,000 existing followers, which was from the old app, to like 1.1 or 1.5. So yeah, if we just kept doing what we're doing, Daily V, Instagram clips, and we didn't think about the next thing, yeah, it it wouldn't have been his philosophy. And so those are the things I've been learning. Yeah.
And can you just talk to how someone at that level who keeps running at that pace for such a long kind of period of time, how do they do it?
Gary's just natural, I think. Um, when it comes to the team, I mean, we went through a lot of videographers, creatives, like, so it's like not everyone's fit for it. Um, I felt like very passionate about it, so it was easy for me to do a 15-hour day, work on the weekend, like I was living the dream. And so, if there's anyone like trying to go scale at that level and that speed, you gotta really love it, and you have to have a team that like really has passion for it, or it's just not going to work. And so even when I created a small mini team Gary Vee for my past chapter with Mike Posner, it was mostly people that like really loved working for Mike, and they might not have been good as someone like as good as someone else, but they had like this passion and they'd like stay up late and work with me at like weird hours. I'm like living in Europe, Mike's in uh, LA, and so I needed people that like could like be online and like enjoyed it.
So it's really all about having people that are bought into that mission and vision. And if they're not, then they're
I
probably
think
not
so.
gonna.
Yeah, and like understanding like what their goals are too. You know, one of my guys was like a video intern. He was like 18, now he's like 19, and so it's like figuring out like, okay, like what do you want out of this? And so obviously I saw it's like, okay, this is like his first legacy client. Um, but I tried doing a good job of like understanding like where these people on the at least creative team wanted to go, and that was like helping everything because like they know they're moving up in their life, and they were also like pushing the brand forward. So I felt good on that part. Yeah,
And then kind of back to what you were doing. So obviously the kind of
yeah.
shooting, editing, bit of being an assistant as well. What else were you getting involved in? Was it kind of ideation and planning and strategy as well? And what other stuff would you?
Yeah, the ideation and the strategy came on later. I really had to prove myself as a creative, and so I was shooting a lot of video in the beginning, long form editing, a lot of like specialized editing where Gary might tap on my shoulder and be like, "Hey, I got this new thing launching," and it might be like, later down the years, it was like VeeFriends. I got a call on like a Sunday. It was like, "Yo, man, like we need like the launch video tomorrow for this," because it really happened fast. So I was like really a specialized editor in that sense, shooter too. Mike Boyd is Gary's like music manager, music relationships manager. He would be like sitting at my desk editing, and he'd come up and be like, "Hey, I got Russ coming in, or I got like Gunna, or like these artists." He's like, can you meet me in the lobby in like 5 minutes and like shoot with them coming in and like the interview with Gary?" And I'm like, "Yeah, 100%." So it's versatile in that sense, and that was very creative leaning. Um, it became way more strategy driven, honestly, in my last chapter with Mike. It's like where I really had to prove myself. So I think we could talk more about that once we get into that chapter.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
Sticking with the kind of Gary chapter though, you mentioned a point there of, you know, strategy shifting when, there's something new coming along like
Yeah.
VeeFriends. What does that mean and how does that impact you?
Yeah. So at the time, like it's COVID. And so I'm doing mostly remote editing. And then we start going back to office. And now I'm like hybrid again. I'm shooting a lot for Gary, mostly like working for other parts of his company, 137, which is like more like a publishing company, telling stories of like other creators. And then then I'm working with like a specialized group. It was like me, David Rock, and Nima Van. And then, David's doing most of the shooting. He's like with Gary when they were like drawing these characters in Malibu. Nima's there too. And then we come back and we're like, cool, like we have all this footage. Like, what are we gonna do? And we were very like siloed in like building up that sort of like those hero videos and the things that went out for like VCon and stuff. And the strategy changes only in the sense that Gary is now focused on this other thing. And so it's like the team was like had a lot of his time in 2018 and 2019 when he wanted to like put out Ask Gary Vee or start a new show called Weekly V or Trash Talk. But now it's like he's starting this whole new company, you know, boom of NFTs, and so he's less Gary Vee at this point. Like he's less interested in doing the podcast, and so you have to like as a team, we started like having to figure out like how are we going to get this like content from him? Are there like shorter time blocks that we can like record stuff with him? And I think that's why you saw during COVID he did like the underrated overrated series because you only needed him for like 30 minutes, an hour, and you'd like it was the attention span was better. Like people were like consuming that quicker. So yeah, strategies changed just based on like the time that we had and where Gary's his focus was.
Okay. And is it tough for you to kind of be split or pulled in multiple different directions, right?
Yeah, because definitely, because there was definitely conversations of like, oh, like when are we bringing back the vlog? Because there would be times when it would disappear when we weren't getting enough footage, or it was like when are we bringing back the podcast? And so I was lucky in the sense that I think I proved myself in the earlier years where I could navigate my career in the ecosystem of like the things I wanted to go do. Because there was a point in time where, just as we're coming back to office, like 2021, where I was like, yeah, I think I want to like navigate into a different part of the company and start making like more films and like just tell different stories. And that's when I joined 137, and we shot with a lot of like creators, like a lot of up and coming artists. Beeple, who's like the NFT, he made like the world's largest NFT. We documented that story of him selling a $69 million piece. So yeah, I was always chasing what I wanted, but sometimes I had to step away from that, and like if Gary had a new thing popping off, I had to just help him execute on it. So yeah.
This might be slightly boring, but from an operational perspective, how does this system run? Because it seems from the outside that things are, yeah, like we said before, quite chaotic. There's a lot of different projects going on. You're kind of being pulled in multiple different directions. You're wanting to achieve your goals. You're wanting to, work on this new project, whatever. How does the business run, and who kind of decides what the strategy is, and who works on what?
Yeah, so at the time, Andy Kranek was the manager of Team Gary, and so he's driving all the strategy. He's directly tied to Gary, driving all the strategy down to these we'll call them channel managers. They have different titles, and one of them is like now the new head of Team Gary, and then those people are like coming down to people like me, shooters, editors, creatives, to make sure like each platform is executing the way that they want it to. Could be like LinkedIn, could be YouTube, could be the Instagram, which usually was like the main focus. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of operations behind that. Like we worked heavily with like programs like Asana. The footage was stored locally on like a massive server. We also like had to upload it to Google Drive in case we were like mobile. There was like many different like ways of like how we like log the footage, because like we're getting like 10 hours of footage a day, and so then the easiest way was if the videographer was like note taking and like letting know, hey, we just got these 10 really good moments. We built out like different systems in Asana where it was like rating the timestamps, but it just kept evolving over time. Some seasons we get a lot of footage, some seasons we wouldn't, and so we'd start like the system wouldn't work the same anymore. And so yeah, it was kind of like a hierarchy, but we all like, and then we also like at one point that we didn't have these like platform leads. It was like everyone was just kind of like working on everything, and then we're like, cool, we need to like silo these like teams: Instagram, YouTube, written, and so yeah, the biggest thing is it evolved just based on like what we were trying to map towards, and that was coming from Gary and Andy.
So am I correct in saying that each kind of initiative, so VeeFriends or one of any
Yeah,
of these kind of channels, then they have a manager in place, and then underneath that you have the different kind of platform people.
yeah. VeeFriends is different. They were focused more on like the sales of it in the beginning, and I didn't like work directly on the team, so it's hard for me to like say like exactly what they did. Easier since I was on Team Gary in 137, and so yeah, it just depended on like where they were at. At first, it was NFTs, then it was like cool, we got to build this IP and like start building shows. Then it was like VCon, we got to like start promoting this conference. We're gonna have like all these entrepreneurs come, and we're like, how are we gonna make the content for it? And so yeah, it was really just the task at hand, and then the teams that kind of structured within that.